it'll suck me in again. It's too immersive.
Oh, this is excellent.
So a few months back, I did a video on the villains that I thought were most integral to the Fallout series. It was a 16.5-minute video that was actually able to reach around 600 views. To say the least, I was pretty satisfied, but self-satisfaction doesn't always mean you get your job done. I got messages from people carefully explaining how I didn't get the job done, how some favorites were missing, and as I thought about it some more, they were right. No Mutants Allowed, Reddit, and even Chris fucking Avalone himself all made me realize that my fanboy-induced ramblings are not over. So let's step back a few feet, to the original. The origin of the Lieutenant is largely unknown, but that doesn't stop him from being an interesting character to not only listen to, but to think about what he represents. The Lieutenant is simply an awesome piece of true post-nuclear writing. He was just a normal human, most likely a prime normal, eking out his existence in a futuristic post-nuclear America. Then, sometime before the 2150s, he's captured by the Master's forces, and is dipped into the large vat holding a pre-war genetically modifiable virus that is able to forcefully evolve anything it touches to be able to survive against the new threats that the post-nuclear world brings. It turns out this person was just genetically viable enough and had yet to succumb to the damaging effects of residual radiation, leading him to become the magnum opus for the mutant race that the Master wanted to create. Through pure coercion, or perhaps through the Master's telepathic abilities, he is able to instill this person with the belief that his new mutant race is the best next evolutionary step for mankind. Since he was the Master's newfound favorite, he became his second-in-command, his lieutenant, if you will. He now oversees the mutant dippings and other operations at the Mariposa military base holding the FEV. When you speak to him, he'll welcome you with open arms to the military base and hope that you, as a prime normal from a pristine Fallout shelter, will join in the glory that is the Unity. The Unity is an ideology that all of the mutants follow. It encompasses the combination of pure, unmutated human stock, unified beliefs under the control of the Master, and, of course, the FEV. He explains what the mutants' true plans are and how they hope to accomplish them. One part of this plan is your vault, that is implied to hold a town's amount of people. The more you listen to this being, the less insane the whole Unity movement seems, and instead you start thinking of how viable it really is for the nuclear wasteland. Genetically viable humans in your vault could truly ensure that humanity could evolve to overcome the new threats of the world through modified intellect, the Master's telepathic abilities, and increased strength. One of the only problems that stands in their way, apart from the fact that differences and divides will be created through any race, is their ignorance to the fact that the FEV, when it was created, had a flaw, and that flaw leads to the Master's dilemma, which you'll be able to find out in the last part. The Lieutenant actually harkens back to the first Wasteland, when you are fighting against a larger menace that threatens to wipe out the remaining survivors of the world. Base Coach Eyes holds within it an artificial intelligence that wishes to create cybernetically advanced humans and deadly machines to unleash death upon the world, and make room for a new race of superhumans and genetically pure specimen, with the help of Erwin Finster, the insane pre-war commander of the base who put himself in cryosleep when the war started. Like the Lieutenant, he also underwent the physical changes needed to qualify as one of these advanced humans, but with that he's also under Coach Eye's AI's control, just as the Lieutenant is under the Master's. All in all, he's a pretty excellent being to hate. He's cunning, he has intellect, and thanks to Tony Jay's voice, he sounds evil as hell, a quality any good villain should have. He single-handedly represents everything that the Master wants to accomplish with his Master race. When we all played Fallout, wherever in the series we started, we immediately got the full notion that America, as we knew it, was gone in the radioactive winds. In its place came new societies, tribes, and civilizations. However, the idea of America still sleeps. Places like the Divide, the rumored orbital nuclear platform in Earth's orbit, the Capital Wasteland, and finally the Enclave. In Fallout 2, before the last moment in the game when you go to the Enclave oil tanker, you won't really know what to think about them. All you know is that they're a bunch of homicidal maniacs that seem to be led by a big mutant freak dude, and only one of those is true. While Frank Horrigan the Horrible acts as a leader of the United States Secret Service, the real master behind the curtains is the President of the United States of America, Dick Richardson. After traversing the wide oceans via an oil tanker ship and navigating through a quick maze, you now stand in front of a man with an ambition to save his people, but from a different angle than the one you see from. President Richardson is a purist in the most literal form possible. The goal that he has set forth for the Enclave is to purify any and all of the mutations in the wasteland. And how does he expect to do this? Mutated FEV. 70 years back, the Mariposa military base was mined for its contents, and the chemical core altered the FEV virus stored within to be an aerosol toxin to wipe out anyone that isn't inoculated against it. Quite the plan, and when you arrive at the Enclave oil rig, it's only hours away from being executed. When I first spoke to Richardson about the severity of his plans, I expected a canned dialogue option that, in maybe 2 or 3 sentences, would change his worldview, or perhaps another flaw with the FEV. But no, this plan would work. In his calm and collected thoughts, he explains how the distribution of inoculative supplies would be handed out in a matter of hours, and then all they would have to do is release it right where they are, and wait for the jet stream to cleanse the world for them. President Richardson is an excellent example of the leftovers of Fallout-era American superiority and anxiety towards the threat of genetic mutation caused by radiation. He will proudly tell you, with a straight face looking into your tribal eyes, that you are no longer human, and have undergone too much genetic mutation caused by the ambient radiation and residual FEV in the atmosphere. You are a threat to him, and he has no remorse telling you that in a matter of hours, you and people like you will cease to exist. He explains genocidal murder like it's just a part of the State of the Union address, which is why it's so goddamn satisfying to watch him do the Harlem Shake as you load him up with lead. Legate Lanius, Monster of the East, is the second to last threat you meet in Fallout New Vegas, depending on the faction of your choice, of course. He dons Legion plate armor and the mask depicting the very face of Mars, the Roman god of war. Linnaeus stands for nothing and believes in nothing, excluding the might of Caesar and the Legion put before him. He believes that the coming war for the West will set the people free in ways they cannot comprehend, essentially throwing out the weak and letting the strong survive and prosper. Linnaeus was once a different man, a killer for a different tribe, the Hydebarks. But when his tribe bowed down in fear to the Legion, Linnaeus saw this as an act of betrayal and slaughtered the chieftain of his tribe as well as 15 others before getting knocked unconscious. When he awoke, Caesar was standing next to him and offered him the mask he wears today in exchange for his service in the Legion. He accepts, only if he is given a chance to kill the surviving members of his tribe. A true monster indeed. Legate Lanius is one of my favorite characters in Fallout, not only because he serves as a very foreign and contrasting icon in a game set in the post-nuclear American West, but because of how brutal he is, and his justification of being so brutal. For all his life, he's been treated as nothing but a tool, a weapon of mass destruction, and he realizes this. When you meet Linnaeus, you meet him to discuss the outcome of the Battle of Hoover Dam, the battle that will lead into the conquest of the Mojave Wasteland, and soon the West itself. Linnaeus cannot be talked down with moral terms. His entire ideology is so inhumane compared to the values that regular New Californians have. It rests upon honor, brutality, punishment, and the currency of blood. In order to win him over with words, he must expose the very tactical flaw of the idea of the Legion winning the West, and that is the NCR's size, and that while the Legion could be taking over the West, the NCR would, by attrition, slowly gain what they've previously lost, simply because of how goddamn spread out they are. Not only must you convince him of this, but you have to use the weapons of words to do it. You cannot accomplish speaking to this boogeyman without the skills of a silver tongue. What legitimately fucking frightens me about this dude is not what he says when he speaks to you, but it's what happens when he assumes the throne of Caesar at the end of the game if you ignore the health issues that Caesar has. In this particular ending, he will crucify the NCR, including Hanlon and other important figures. He will crucify Arcade Gannon and slaughter the followers of the Apocalypse like dogs. He will mercilessly end all of the lives associated with the idea of the Enclave, a group once so powerful that they were once hours away from cleansing the globe of any and all contaminated humans, and everything the Wasteland had ever come to know since the nuclear Armageddon of 2077. Legate Lanius earns his title. He is the monster of the East. The Brotherhood NCR war should have been the last nail in the coffin for the Brotherhood of Steel. The NCR size and overall power in the Wasteland could have completely overpowered them, but it was the spread of the NCR that was the miracle flaw that kept the Brotherhood alive. However, some people in the higher ranks of the Brotherhood don't wish to sit around like ducks, and among them, Father Elijah. While the Brotherhood lost Helios 1, Elijah decided to wander into the waste looking for new technology. He strode into places like the Big Empty and eventually stumbles across Ulysses, a character we'll get into in a minute. Ulysses points Elijah into the direction of the Sierra Madre Casino, where the potential for untouched pre-war technology and control awaits. Elijah doesn't want to destroy the world, he wants to remake it. He wants a world in which the situation that happened at Helios 1 didn't happen. So he plans to utilize the dark red cloud that surrounds the Sierra Madre and the hologram technology that protects the casino itself to invade the Mojave and clean it of all life, so that, as he puts it, he can stand atop the Helios 1 tower again. He's a clear mastermind and manipulator. When you're kidnapped and brought to the Sierra Madre courtyards, you and the rest of the inhabitants were strapped with explosive collars and set with the parameter of, if one person dies, then everyone dies. This element of Elijah's manipulation makes the Dead Money DLC what it is, a beautiful but stressful and anxiety-filled adventure that takes you to an ancient vault, holding within it the ghosts of the old world. The Divide in its giant sleep. The sands of the Big Empty experiments continue to tear and alter the skin of those who are trapped in this hellscape. And through it all, Ulysses, a former Twisted Hair's tribe member on Legion Frumentari, waits in the cold silo as your lust for adventure and answers pulls you into his temple filled with the remnants of the true American dream. While Ulysses isn't the favorite character of many a Fallout player, he definitely sits as one that I find most interesting. Ulysses is a character that was written and rewritten more than twice. During New Vegas' development, he was supposed to be a companion that you could get, and a way for the Legion to get some sympathy from a man that sort of believes in them. Then, for unknown reasons, he was cut from the game and reserved for a DLC that would come almost a year later. I can understand why his writing was kind of sloppy and takes a while to interpret what the developers were really going at with this character, but from all the things that I've read and what I've played, this is what I and most have interpreted. You, the courier, as you sway the political landscape of the Mojave itself, are being hunted. You have been since before you were shot in the head and thrown into an early grave. You see, before any of this happened, you delivered a package, on the job given to you by the NCR, who were scavenging through the ruins of Navarro, an old Enclave base that was used to mainly refuel their vertibirds. The package had a similar icon, one that was also seen in a region called Hopeville, what would soon become the Divide. Meanwhile, Ulysses is a Legion Frumentari, an advanced scout basically enough. His search for a true place that he could call home had come to an end when he found the growing nation of Hopeville. As he describes it, it was better than the bull and bigger than the bear. But then NCR started to move in, therefore catching the eye of the Legion. As both armies stomped towards the only hope that Ulysses had for a world reborn, you walked softly in the center, carrying your package as you were told, and then you left. Sometime before the events of New Vegas start, this package starts speaking. When it was done, only destruction came. It turns out this device was from the Enclave, and it was speaking ancient nuclear silo codes for the Divide missiles. Now, nothing's left, except the ruins of a world that Ulysses had placed his bets on. He received two things when this happened. One was the knowledge of how much one man could change a nation, and the other, his realization that you must be held responsible for the atrocity you caused. So in comes his motivations. He scours the Divide, potentially repairing some of its systems. He travels far to the Big Empty to search for where the dust storms had been coming from, and then discovers an old Enclave technology. Eddie, a prototype Duraframe iBot unit who holds within him the launch codes for the rest of the Divide missiles. He uses the Divide to remote scan him and all of his data, including these launch codes. Then, in an attempt to knock two birds out with one stone, one being the NCR and the other being you, Ulysses contacts you via radio and uses your character's lust for answers and your own lust for adventure and some sweet extra New Vegas content to have you bring this remote-copied Eddie to life. In your journey towards its temple, Ulysses had hoped that the Divide would kill you, but it didn't. Just like the Mojave Wasteland before you, nothing could stop you. You arrived at Ulysses' temple and had an ending to things, in which you reshaped the image of both the West and the East using the sleeping warheads in the Divide. If there's one thing that Lonesome Road, and more specifically Ulysses, did, was he finally gave an end to the Fallout trilogy, starting with Fallout 1, continuing with 2, and ending here. War never changes, Fallout 1 told us. Lonesome Road adds an ending to that statement. War may never change, but men do. A single road can change a man. It did for the Vault Dweller, it did for the Chosen One, and it did for the Courier. Wherever they step, war will still be waged due to the nature of man, but in their path they will take with them new knowledge and new ways to shape their world and themselves in ways greater than what can be immediately observed. And that's the greatest and possibly most important thing that Fallout has ever taught me. Thank you for watching.